Okay. This on here. Okay. Hello, 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 everybody. Hello. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today? I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Hopefully everybody's doing great today. Yay. Question mark. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a minute or so. Okay, we'll wait for a few more people to trickle on in, and then we'll go ahead and get going. No problemo. We'll get started here. We're getting down to that final stuff here. So just got one more chapter to go, and we're going to be in really good shape. All right. Let's do that. Okay. So hopefully we'll get a few more people to join us eventually. Question mark. Question mark. We'll have people to join us. Yeah. I think we'll have people starting to trickle in. That's good. That's good. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started here. So that way we'll get going here. So, okay, let's go. Okay, let's get started today. Welcome back. Welcome back to Tuesday. Hey, how do you review videos from the past? You had to leave halfway through. You can review videos on YouTube there, or you can watch replays here on Twitch, Chase. So you can go back to that video on the in my videos tab on my channel here, and you can rewatch those replays there. So either YouTube or here, you'll have two places of where you can find those videos. It's only here on Twitch for up to 14 days, but still. All right. So, okay, let's get started today. Welcome back to Tuesday. Hopefully you have a nice Thanksgiving holiday. All right, so for today, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started with the newest chapter here. Last time we finished up chapter 6. Okay. I scrolled down by I just got the banners. You have to go to the video tab, Chase. Go to the video tab, please, on my channel. All right, so today what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be covering chapter 9 here today. That's the last chapter here of the textbook. Okay, so the very last chapter here of the textbook is just that. Okay. Where is that again? Somewhere there. Anywho, sure. Things. All right. I'm gonna roll with it. You can also check YouTube there. Check on my channel there, Chase. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and start here with Chapter 9. Now, Chapter 9 here is going to talk all about signed numbers, all right? Everything we're going to talk about here in Chapter 9 is signed numbers. Now, there are going to be 4 sections here. Now, before we go ahead and get started here, I have a few things that I do need to talk about. All right, first of all, this is the last chapter here of the textbook, okay? So this is the last of the new material that we're going to be covering. Once we're done, there are 4 sections here in Chapter 9 that we're going to be covering. All right, I expect us to get through a section and a half here today. All right, and we should get through the rest of it without too much trouble by next week, at the next week there, most definitely. I'll also be discussing here next week regarding the final exam and this last exam as well. Okay, so we're going to be discussing both of those things here eventually, either next class or the following week. We'll discuss that in a little bit more detail. I have yet to make up the final, but making up the final there shouldn't be too tough. So we're gonna just kind of put that together, and it shouldn't be too hard to do. Okay, so I just want to give you a heads up there about what's going on, at least what we're going to be doing here for the next few classes. Finish up Chapter 9. We'll discuss certain things here. Again, Chapter 6 is due here on this Friday, so don't forget that that's going to be due. All right, so be sure to finish that by then. All right. Okay. Does anybody have any questions before we move forward? Any questions by anyone here? Again, if you have no questions, please type no in the chat. All right. No questions? Let's go ahead and start here. All right. So today, all right. So today, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and talk about signed numbers here. Today we're going to talk about negative numbers. Okay, we know about positive numbers here fairly easily, but let's talk about negative numbers here. Now let's talk about the basis of negative numbers. Well, as you can see here, numbers greater than 0 are called positive numbers. So we can write that in positive. And the second definition here, numbers less than 0 here are called negative numbers. Okay. So we're going to go through a simple breakdown here. Now we've covered pretty much everything that we need to know for the fundamentals of doing mostly like add, subtract, multiply, divide. We did decimals and fractions. So now we can apply that here to positive and negative numbers here and look at the breakdown behind that. All right. So to write a negative number, put a negative sign in front of it. Okay, so you know what? I'm just going to type that in because it's easier that way. Yeah. All right. So basically, not too hard to figure out, and that's perfectly fine. Now, I'm going to be skipping around a bit in this section here because some of it's kind of easy and then some of it's kind of like, it's a thing. So I want to point out several things here. Now, the first thing I want to point out here is this picture. Now, you can graph these numbers, and graphing these numbers aren't hard, okay? They're very easy. You just look on the number line. This is a number line here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got -1, -2, -3, and so on. Now, I want you to notice one thing here, and that is how this is written. When we talk about positive, okay, if we go to the right, okay, and let's put that here. Okay, if we go to the right, right means positive. Okay. Okay, so basically what that means is that in a very simple sense, and just keep it as simple as possible to understand this. All right, if right means positive, that means that the more right a number is, that the more positive that number is, the larger that positive number is going to be. Okay, so essentially, larger numbers, larger positive numbers are going to mean, higher numbers at the end of the day, okay? We can also look here at the other one. Let's look at this one here. I'm going to add a note probably to both of these. Say, I want to put this the right way, but let's focus on this here. This is left here. Left means negative, okay? Now, if you're off to the left here, one thing that's very confusing is everything is flipped around. Everything. You see here that the larger that number is, the more negative that number is, okay? So what does that mean in general? I want to put this actually in a very specific light because what I'm going to put next here will make a whole lot more sense if I do it this way. So let me go ahead and do that right now. Okay. Now we're going to exploit this next note here for negative numbers here to make this much more understandable. So again, it means the larger the number, the more negative it's going to be. But the larger the number, the larger the negative number. Actually, I should say, how would I put this? I'm trying to do this the right way. Let's see. Oh, crap. Hang on. Sorry. You guys have to remind me I'm a doof. All right, there we go. Thanks, Natalie. All right, let me go back up here. This I just wrote 0 positive, 0 negative, writing a negative and sign in front of it. There we go. You guys got to remind me I'm a doofus. So me and smart things, they don't go together. All right, just pointing that out there. Okay. So what we want to see here is that, again, left means negative. Again, right means positive. The larger the negative number, represents that the number is smaller. Okay, we're going to talk about this here. So if the negative number here, if we go to the left and we go more and more down because everything is flipped around, like we could say, for example, if I have $8 and you have $5, okay, $8 is bigger than $5. But if I go in reverse, if everything gets flipped around in mirror world, in negative land, well then if I have -$8 is less than -$5 because it's further to the left. Okay, so I'll just say this. Negative numbers represents that the number is smaller if it's further left. I think that's the best way to put it. All right. Now we're going to talk about when we look at some examples here in just a moment. Okay, so so let's take a good look here though at this part here. All right, so it says graph each set of numbers here, -1, 1, -3, and 3. All you have to do for this, by the way, is if you see these problems here on the homework, well then you just have to go ahead and fill in the blanks, fill it in with a dot here at each one of these numbers. So -1, 1 here, -3, you can just put a dot there, and 3 here, you put a dot right there. That's all you have to do for that one. And just go through each number here. This is -2, that's the first number. 4, there you go. 0, yeah. -1, okay. And was this -4? All right, fine. Okay, so you're just put in a dot wherever you see those numbers there. I'm not going to focus on that too hard because it's really the more important part here is actually comparing numbers here for positive and negative. And that's really the part that I want to reflect. Okay. Okay, so let's take a good look here at this. A positive number can be written two different ways. I think we both know that. Again, we could write it as 3 or +3. We both know that positive numbers are written this way. Again, just kind of going through that very quickly. Like I said, some parts I'm going to skip here because the more meat and potatoes are going to be a little bit more important here, like right here. Okay, now let's say we're comparing positive and negative numbers as we talked about before. Okay, Now, in order for us to make that comparison, we need to use a comparison tool, that being the less than or bigger than sign. Now, we talked about it earlier here in the semester. I believe it was a couple chapters ago when we talk about, maybe it was when we talk about decimals or fraction. Maybe it was a while ago. Or maybe it's like proportions or something. But we use like less than or bigger than here in order to compare, say, two fractions or two decimals or whatnot. Now we're going to be wanting to do the same thing here. Now to give ourselves a nice friendly reminder here, let's talk about what these symbols mean. The first thing that we see here, we see this symbol right here. This symbol here means less than. So if I were to look at this concretely, and if I said A, and let's say it looks like this, okay? Where you could imagine like A and B here. You could say, we say basically in words, we say A is less than B. Okay, so if I said it in words here, this is what it essentially would look like. Okay, now let's put. All right, so if I said this, A is less than B. That's essentially how we want to read that in our head. If you want to say it out loud, say it out loud. It's just a lot easier that way. And then you could see like, okay, that's fine. Now, I'm going to expand on this in just a second here, but let's focus on the next one here. Next one says, all right, we see that symbol there with the open end toward the kind of the left there. So that's going to be what we call bigger than. Or, again, if I write like this, okay, this means A is bigger than B. Okay, just as a common phrase, that we could just read that out loud. A is bigger than B. Now, let's talk about what this means. So if we're talking about less than or bigger than, all right, let's talk about breaking it down here. And these next two parts actually highlight exactly what I want to say here, so that way it becomes a little bit more obvious. Now, that note that I put earlier here, let me scroll back up here, means negative numbers represent that the number is smaller if it's further left. Now, this is a very important fact. Why? Because if we want to compare two numbers here with less than or bigger than, then let's go ahead and take a look here. If I said, all right, if I want to figure out what's the smaller of the two numbers, so the smaller of the two numbers is the one farther to the left on a number line, okay? So smaller, it goes with left. I'm going to put this in all caps. So put that a bit further up here. The bigger of the two numbers here is the one further to the right. And again, the way we want to write out inequalities here, specifically, note, the open end always faces the bigger number, okay? So if you're confused about how to write inequalities down, the open end of the inequality always faces the bigger number, okay? Again, less than or bigger than. Okay, this is always going to be true here for all inequalities, okay? And all we have to determine is which number is further left than the other, or which number is further right than the other, whatever the case may be. Okay, now let's take a look here at the number line, all right? Let's compare 2 and 6, okay? Let's start off with something easy. So what would this be here? You see 2 there. Now start off with 2, okay? Is 2 less than or bigger than 6? Is 2 less than or bigger than 6? Go ahead and put an answer there in the chat. Is 2 less than or bigger than 6? Go ahead and post your inequality there. Take a Take a good guess there. All right, is that what less than means? Take a look at your inequality there, J-Dragon. I agree it's less than, but the open end is facing the wrong way. The open end, remember, faces toward the bigger number. So what you're saying here is that if I put that down, okay, yeah. So this is where the confusion lies. If I put this, like you suggested here, J-Dragon, well then what you're saying is that 2 is on the open end, which means 2 has to be bigger than 6 if you read it from left to right. That's the way we want to. That's the way we want to approach these. Read it from left to right. Okay, so in reality, I want to say 2 is less than 6. So all right, that's how I'm basically reading that in my mind. That's why I put this symbol here in this case. Again, 2 is further left than 6 on the number line, as we can see right here. Okay. All right, let's try the next one. How about -9 and -4? All right. Is -9 less than -4? Or is it bigger than -4? Okay, that's correct in this case. Now let's take a look here again. So let's read this out loud here. You know, you can read this to yourself here. You get -9 is less than -4. Now people get confused about this one here. So I'm going to go over this very carefully. Now the reason why I'm going over this carefully here is take a look at -9 and -4. So -4 is right here, right where my mouse is. And -9, I'm going to circle that a little bit with my mouse here. So -9 is further left than -4. So again, the further left that we are, the smaller that number is going to be on our number line. So -9 here is less than -4. It is smaller than or less than -4. Further left means it's the smaller of the two numbers. How about 2? 2 is 2 less than -1, or is 2 bigger than -1? Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate it. If you have questions, please ask. Hey, good to see you too, Charlie. I hope you're having a wonderful time. Unfortunately, my room behind me is not as clean as yours. I'm just going to point that out there. I don't think it'll ever be as clean as yours. I have to admit my faults. That's one of them. All right, 2 is bigger than -1. That is correct. So 2 is further to the right of -1. Next one is less than. That is correct. Very nice, my dude. Yes. We're going to get to that there. I agree with you, Charlie. So 2 is bigger than -1. Again, 2 is a little bit further to the right than -1. So -1 is here, and 2 is a little bit to the right here, which means it is bigger than. You don't have to have a maths qualification as long as you're. I have a maths qualification, but I studied really high-end math too. But you know what? Anything to help. So you could say 2 is bigger than or more than. You could also say it that way. -1. So the way we want to say it in our head is just kind of that way for making a comparison. And was correctly stated by the very famous Charlie Morley. -4 here is to the left of 0. So notice that -4 is further left than 0. So we can say here that -4 is less than 0. All right. Okay. So I want you to try one here really quick. Try one here. I'll need on to do one here now that you guys got a pretty good idea. Try this one right here. Actually, we'll try two of these. We'll try this first one here, number 3, though, because that's trickier. So we have -8 and -9. -8 and -9. I'm going to zoom out here for a second. All right. Got the number line up there. So we got -8, -9. Is -8 less than or bigger than -9? So take a look carefully at the number line you see at the top of the screen. Okay, is -8 less than -9, or is it bigger than -9? Go ahead and put in your answer there in the chat. This one here seems a little tough. Bigger than? Okay, you guys say it's bigger than? All right. Well, let's go ahead and see here. And indeed, the answer to this is indeed bigger than. That is correct. If you take a look here, -8 and -9 are literally next to each other, but -9 is further left than -8. Or again, -8 is further right than -9, whichever way you want to look at it. So because -8 is further right than -9 on our number line here, then that means that -8 has to be bigger than -9. It's the same thing as if we have here, we have less than here. -1 is less than 0, something to that effect. Okay, very good. All right, any questions about that? Again, if you have no questions, go ahead and put, just type no in the chat there. That'd be very convenient. Where are we at? Okay. Posture check. All right. That's fair. That's fair. All right. Yeah, let me readjust myself. Got a little, I put little rewards there. Okay. All right, let's move on here. Next, we're going to go ahead and talk about absolute value. All right, so that's the next thing that we're going to discuss here, absolute value. All right, so how is absolute value going to work here in this instance? All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look, yeah? All right, so absolute value, we're only going to focus on one thing here. I know it says absolute value is blank from blank. I'm just going to kind of ignore that. Instead, I'm just going to define absolute value here in my own way. All right. First of all, let's talk about notation. All right. So notation here for absolute value is, if you've seen absolute value, would be like the absolute value of A, like that. Again, 2 bars, just 2 vertical bars right next to each other, you know, with the number smack dab in between. Now let's talk about the trick here to absolute value. The trick here to absolute value is fairly simple. The trick to absolute value is basically you keep all you want to do here specifically is everything is going to turn positive when you put it inside an absolute value. So everything turns positive when you put stuff into absolute value, okay? Now, the one thing to think about here is this, and this is one very important note here regarding absolute values. Treat absolute value as parentheses if doing order of operations. Okay, so we're going to see this a little bit later where we're going to say add, subtract, multiply, divide, whatever. And we're going to want to treat whatever's inside our absolute values as parentheses and then applying our absolute value to that particular answer. For now, we're just looking at the basics here. But we're also going to go ahead and we're also going to see it later on, I believe in the last section here, section 9.4, where we're going to actually put that together. Now, let's take a good look here at each one of these particular values. Again, everything to its positive. So absolute value land is a positive place. It's a very positive place. It's got a lot of positive vibes. Okay, 100%. All right. Now, let's take a good look here at letter A. All right. So letter A says the absolute value of 8. Now, basically put, if I just put the absolute value of 8, well, whatever I put in there, it spits back out a positive number. So I'm just going to get 8. Again, everything is going to follow suit here by this idea. Let's talk about the key here. One of the keys thing, one of the picks to click, all right, is equal to, again, take a number, that becomes A, or take a number if that's negative, whatever negative of whatever that number, and that still becomes A. Okay, so no matter what, it'll become positive. Okay. How about the absolute value of minus 8? What's the absolute value of minus 8? Yeah, simple enough. Just 8, right? In absolute value land, it just magically becomes positive. So it's like, okay, great, here you go. Magic happens. I wave my hand. Yeah. All right. Good beans. How about 0? How about 0? What's the absolute value of 0? Yeah, just 0. There's really nothing happens. Okay, 0 is just 0. There's nothing special about the absolute value of 0. You just get back what you start with. Now, let's look at this last one here. We have negative of the absolute value of negative 3. What's that going to be here? Okay, that is correct. Okay, that's correct, Ola. That is absolutely correct. Minus 3, spot on. Now, let's talk about exactly why this happens to come and pass. All right. So I want to focus on this question here in particular. So I'm going to rewrite it down here. So it says this is basically a problem that we take into 2 parts. Okay. If you see this, again, you see this negative here on the outside, you see this negative here on the inside. Now, again, one of the things that we have to do here is let's take a look at our note, we have to treat absolute value as parentheses, okay? So essentially, we have to do the absolute value here first, okay? That has to come first. That's the very important point I want to stress. Because of this note, because of how we approach absolute value, we have to do absolute value first. And then we tack on the negative at the end. So let's put the key to this particular problem here. Let's type it out. So Okay, so do the absolute value first, and then tack on the negative at the end. So if you were to show steps behind this, and really there isn't a whole lot of steps, but if we were to show steps behind this, I would bring this negative down, okay? And then this, absolute value of -3, that becomes 3. And I just have -3 here at the end, okay? So I know these steps seem a little inane, but still, um, uh, that's how you can justify each part kind of putting together once you have all the pieces in place. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. Good stuff. All right. Let's take a good look here at some others. Okay. Let's take a good look here at number 3. So really quick here, what would number 3 be if we were to evaluate that? So negative absolute value of -17. What would that be? All right, -17 is spot on. All right, so just the same way we did this last problem here, you do absolute value of -17, which is 17, and then tack on the negative at the end, and you got a winner chicken dinner. All right, so no problemo. Easy peasy. All right, good stuff. Okay, all right, easy time, easy life. Okay, next. Next, let's talk about the opposites of numbers. Now, in all honesty, this is really boring, but let's talk about the key. Tack on a negative in front of the number. Yeah. This is literally all you have to do. And let's put a note here. Note, if the number is already negative, change it to a positive number. Okay? So tack on a negative in the front of the number. If the number is already negative, change it to a positive number. That's all you got to do for these problems. So being to say, what's the opposite of 5? Well, that's -5. 9, it's -9. The opposite of 0, by the way, this is probably the one exception here. The opposite of 0 here is going to be just straight up 0. Okay, 0 doesn't really have anything. 4/5, that's -4/5. Good stuff. Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know what else to say. That's about 30 seconds worth of explanation. Yeah. Really, there's nothing outside of that that's really all that hard. Tack on a negative. You got a winner. That's the opposite. Yay! All right. Now, of course, we can work with opposite numbers here in some capacity, and we'll do that here in the second section. But again, opposite numbers there is just its negative counterpart. All right. Nothing too fancy going on here. The opposite of a negative number is a positive number. Okay, so okay. Let's take a look at some other numbers here. Let's see what happens. What's the opposite of -4? What's the opposite of -4? Let's see if we got that down. What's the opposite of -4? Yeah, 4. Right? Just change from negative to positive if it's negative already. How about negative 3/4? What's the opposite of that? The opposite of negative 3/4. Yeah, just positive 3/4. Okay? You're not doing anything special here. You're just taking away the negative and leaving the positive. That's it. If it helps, you can write a plus in the front. Whichever way you want. It's fine. I don't particularly mind. Okay. So we have all that. All right. Questions about that? Nope. All right. Now, let's talk about the real meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about here today in section 9.2. Okay, so now we have a pretty basic understanding of positive and negative numbers. Okay, we kind of know how to work with them, in terms of its super basics. Well, now let's talk about adding and subtracting some signed numbers. And what we're going to do here in this case is we're going to look at some techniques about how to make adding and subtracting numbers here a little bit easier of a time here. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of cases. Actually, we'll look at 3 cases here, and we're just going to go ahead and see how this works. They said add sign numbers using a number line. Yay. All right. Add sign numbers without using a number line. Okay. Find the additive inverse. We'll talk about that. And if we get to subtraction, we'll talk about that. Okay. But I want to spend a lot of the bulk of the time here on the addition part, because subtraction is going to use a lot of the things that we talk about from addition here. So just to let you know, things we'll talk about addition will be equally as impactful in subtraction, as we're going to use those techniques. All right. So you can show, basically, I don't use the number line too much when it comes to addition, but if it does ask you here, you can show adding. You can add numbers here by showing and pointing to the right. Okay, you can show minus, an arrow pointing to the left. Okay, so I'm not a big fan of just using the number line here necessarily. I'm not sure how helpful it's going to be, because I actually am going to use a slightly different strategy. Okay, yes, we are going to maybe draw arrows to the left or right if we wanted to represent a number line, but let's say I wanted to tell you how to actually solve for it first, and then know exactly where we're actually going to draw it towards. Because that's kind of one of the things here, is that it kind of makes it confusing here, is that, oh, I have to do this way, I have to do that way, and then you're like, where should it go, and this and that and the other thing, and you're like, that's very, very confusing. Okay, well, let's talk about our key things that we want to talk about here for addition of signed numbers. Okay, now, to put this as simple as possible, we are going to fall underneath one of 3 cases. Okay, so we're going to fall underneath one of 3 cases when it comes to adding signed numbers. So let's discuss each case here, and then we'll see exactly how we want to attack each one of those problems. All right, so let's look at case number 1. All right. Let's say we're adding 2 numbers together, and both numbers here happen to be positive. Okay, so like 7 plus 3 or whatever. Okay, this is the easiest of the cases because I think for everyone here, it's just adding straight up. Okay, so nothing too fancy going on here. You know, the method here for this one is the method is to just add straight up. Nothing too fancy going on here. Everybody's fairly comfortable with this method here, so fine. All right, great. Okay. Now, outside of adding straight up here, if both numbers are positive, let's take a look at the next case here. What happens if both numbers are negative? Okay, so this time here, let's say we had, let's say I wrote it down here. I said, okay, what's -1 plus -4? Okay, let's say this is what I have here. That minus looks pretty crazy large. So let's, my hand slipped there. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's say I had two negative numbers and I was adding them together. Okay, now there is a nice little trick behind this as well. All right, in that you don't have to guess what the answer to this problem is going to be. What's the method here that we take in this case for case number 2? So the method here in this case is basically if both numbers are assumed to be negative, you see them that this is going to be negative, just ignore the negative, okay? Add the numbers straight up, and then tack on a negative at the end, okay? So that's all we're going to do here. If you want to do this in your head, it's super easy, okay? So you'd be like, oh, okay, -1 plus -4. All right, let's not worry about the confusing aspect. Let's just assume the negatives aren't even there. Well, then if I assume that the negatives aren't there, then in a sense, just on a side, I'm doing 1 plus 4. I could do 1 plus 4. It's really easy. That's 5. Well, then since both numbers are negative, I just tack on the negative at the end. So then my final answer here is -5. And that's all I have to do. Simple enough. I don't have to do anything special outside of that. It's just that easy. Okay, now, before we move on here to the last case, are there any questions about these first two cases that you see here? I'm going to be doing a lot of different ones here, but different examples here, but just want to at least ask if anybody has any questions there. Raise your hand says no. No? Okay. No? Okay. Check. Okay. That's fair. Okay. Now, let's talk about the last case, though, because the last case here, like you see here for letter B, what happens if you add a negative number and a positive number here together? So this is the last case here that we need to discuss, and it usually is the most complicated of the cases. So let's talk about how we want to attack these kind of problems. So case number 3, you are adding one positive, and one negative number together. All right. So we have one positive and one negative number here together. Now, for the method that I'm going to show you here, it doesn't matter which number, it doesn't matter here, in this case, which number comes first or which number comes second. Doesn't matter whatsoever. What we want to do here specifically is let's talk about the steps on how to approach, say, something like -6 plus 2. All right. So step one. Step one is basically find the biggest number. Ignoring the sign. Find the biggest number and determine its sign. Okay? So let me show you what I'm talking about here in step one. All right, so here I got -6 plus 2. You're probably saying, whoa, 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 what does that mean? Find the biggest number and determine its sign. Yeah, that seems kind of strange. Okay, all I'm going to see is that, all right, I take a look here and I say 6 is a bigger number than 2. Okay, so 6 being a bigger number than 2, 6 is bigger than 2. And in this case here, this happens to be negative in this instance, okay? So why is this important? Well, this is important for one reason. This is important for one reason, is that the final answer to any one of these problems, okay? The final answer to this problem here is going to be equal to the sign of the bigger of the two numbers. That's how it's going to work, all right? So I'll show you how it works in steps here, and I'll show you what happens. Step 2. Ignoring the negative, subtract the bigger number from the smaller number. Okay? So just do straight up subtraction here. So I don't care about the minus sign. I don't care about that whatsoever. I'd be like, all right, fine. All I'm going to do straight up is I'm just going to do 6 minus 2. All right, fine. I'm going to take the bigger number, subtract it by the smaller number, be like, okay, good. And here I get 6 minus 2, which is 4. All right. All right. Finally, step 3. Put the sign you determined in step 1 in front of the answer you found in step 2. Okay. Okay. So put the sign you determined in front of put the sign you determined in step 1 in front of the answer you found in step 2. So all I'm doing here specifically is that here I got 4 in step number 2. So in this last step here, because the negative sign is your bigger of the two, then all I'm going to do here is that I would have 4, and I'm going to just tack on a negative here. And there you go. I have -4 as my answer. Now, this is very helpful in a lot of ways. Now, why is that? Well, if I were to look at it from a number line perspective, I know where I start, and I also know my destination. So knowing exactly where we're ending up actually makes graphing these on the number line significantly easier. For example here, I start here at -6. I know my final answer here has to be -4. I'm adding 2, so all I have to do is draw an arrow to the right here, and that arrow to the right here stops here at -4. This is all that represents, -6 plus 2. I move 2 units to the right. Or, if you know exactly where you need to draw your arrow to, hey, start at the leftmost number, draw an arrow to the left or right to where you need to end up, and bada bing, bada boom, you have yourself a winner. That's pretty much it. It's that easy. Now, How does it work here? Let's take a look at another example with this next one, letter C. I have -3 plus -5. First of all, let's find the final answer to that. What is -3 plus -5? If we used our methods here, I'm going to just ignore that the negatives are even there because my answer is already negative as a result. I don't need to worry about the negative. Just tack on the negative at the end. So what's my answer here? I'm going to look at just 3 plus 5. And here I get 8. And just tack on a negative here at the end. So I get -8. All I'm doing is I'm starting at -3. And I know that at the end of the day, I got to end up at -8. So let's draw a little, I'm going to draw an arrow here starting at -3, going over to -8. And there we go. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Okay. Any questions about that so far? Okay. Let's try this next one here. I want you to take a look here at 3 plus -2. All right? 3 plus -2. First of all, let's determine what 3 plus -2 is. What is 3 plus -2? What's that going to be? One. That is correct. So again, the bigger of the two numbers here is 3. So our final answer has to be positive. Final answer is positive. So then we go ahead and do 3 minus 2, which equals 1. And all we have to do here is tack on the positive here on the front. And so we get +1 as a result. So here we start off at 3. We're supposed to end up at +1. Okay. That's it. That's all you got to do. It's as easy as that. Any questions about that? No? Okay. Okay. Let's take a good look here at some other problems. This time, though, I want to do it without the number line here. The number line here is kind of well, in my opinion, kind of annoying. But let's look at straight problems here, and let's see if you can figure these out using our techniques from before. Okay. Oh, let's have you guys try, let's have you try these 3 here, right here. Let's try A, B, and C here, all 3 of them. Let's try A, B, and C here to start with, okay? So adding these 3 together. Once you have answers for that, go ahead and post that in the chat, all right? So let's take about a minute or two and let's put it together. Oh, this is going to be interesting, that's for sure. see here, minus 16, minus 30, and minus 57. Okay. So J Dragon got here. Anyone else? All right. Let's go ahead and take a look here. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Here we got minus 4 plus negative 12. All right. So again, we just know that both of these are negative here, so we just ignore them straight up. We just do 4 plus 12. 4 plus 12 is 16. And then we just tack on the negative since they were both negative to begin with. So that's correct. Same thing for this one here. Just do 5 plus 25 straight up with both of them being negative. And that's going to be 30. There you go. And we get minus 30 here. Since they were both negative, just tack that on at the end. Finally, we have 11 plus 46. Okay. And that is 57. And here we get negative 57 since they're both negative. All right. Let's try another batch of problems. All right. And we're going to see this one here. Let's say they're mixed. So which one I want to do here? Yeah, let's do all of these. All right. So let's do A through D here this time. Let's take a couple of minutes here or so. Again, there you go. We're in basic arithmetic here, Math 090. So we're at a basic arithmetic here. Once you got your answers there from A through D, go ahead and post that in the chat. Math 090, this one's taught at a community college here. 5, negative 8, negative 6, and 4. Okay. All right. Okay. I understand. What matters is that people want to help better themselves at a subject that happens to be difficult, BMC. So it doesn't matter what level of grade you think it is. It's just, again, at the end of the day, math is a subject that's difficult for a lot of people. And so going over the fundamentals and getting back that number sense is very important. Okay. So again, everybody who comes through this class here has different circumstances or different ways of understanding. So hopefully we can get that back on track and hopefully get better at a subject that is legitimately very hard. Thank you, BMC. All right. So let's take a look here. Let's say look at J Dragon here's answers. So we got 8 plus negative 3. Now, first and foremost here, the bigger of the two numbers, if you're looking at 8 and 3, is going to be 8. So our final answer here, which I'll label just as FA for final answer, because I don't want to write that repetitively. Our final answer here is going to be positive as a result. Just do 8 minus 3, which is 5. And so the answer for the first one here is indeed positive 5. Perfect. Next one, we just look at between 4 and 12. The bigger of the two numbers here is 12. Our final answer here, because 12 is negative, is also negative. So now we do 12 minus 4. And that equals 8. And then you tack on a negative here at the end. Negative 21 plus 15. We want to do, not that. CPU, go away. All right. All right, so here we look at 21 and 15 here. So 21 here is our larger of the two numbers here. Final answer here is going to be negative because 21 is negative. We do 21 minus 15, which is 6. And then we tack on a negative here at the end. So minus 6 is what we get here. Finally, we look at 13 and 9. So 13 is the larger of the two numbers. So our final answer here is going to be positive. Okay, and let's go ahead and take a look at there. What's this? We get 13 minus 9 here. Oh, gonna blank there for a second. That'll be 4, and in a sense, that'll be, actually erase this. So that'll be 4 here. And then we're just gonna put positive 4 there in the front, since the final answer has to be positive as well. Okay, good. So there's how we can actually add, again, one positive and one negative number using our method here. And you see how fast it goes. It's really not as bad as it looks. Okay, if you take it one step at a time, it becomes relatively easy, as you can just kind of plot along and get that done. Okay. All right. Now, this last part here talks about additive inverses. Let's talk about what that is really quick. So I'll just talk about it really briefly here. Additive inverse is basically the number you add to another number to get 0 as its sum. That's basically what an additive inverse is. What is the additive inverse specifically? I.e., the opposite of the original number. All right. Now, by and large, this isn't too hard to figure out because, in all honesty, it's just relatively straightforward. So again, what's the additive inverse here? The additive inverse here of, say, 6, for example, the additive inverse of 6 will be the opposite here, which is minus 6. We talk about opposite numbers in the last section. So again, we would get it here. The sum of the number and the inverse here, that'd be 6 plus negative 6. Okay, if you're adding those two things together, well, no matter what, the sum is always 0. Okay, so a number added to its equivalent opposite will always be equal to 0 here at the end of the day. So if I took a look here and the number was minus 8, what would the additive inverse of minus 8 be? Basically, what's the opposite of minus 8? Yeah, 8. And then all we have to do is take minus 8 plus 8. And no matter what, since they're basically opposites of each other, we're just going to get 0. That's pretty much all you have to do. That's it. If you want there to be more, well, sorry to say, there isn't. Because literally there isn't. So, there really isn't. Any questions about that? No? All right. Okay. That may take me some time to do. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I just probably will do that for that. All right. I can flow those two things together, which I will. Yes. Yes. All right. Okay. So I'll definitely flow those two together there. All right. So actually, this is where I am going to stop here for today. For this class. All right, I'm actually going to stop here because we could talk about subtracting signed numbers here. I want to spend a little bit more time than 8 minutes on it, and it flows a lot better with the next section after that, which is multiplication of signed numbers and whatnot. So there's a little bit of overlap, just a slight bit, but again, important, an important bit certainly for sure. So we're going to cover that there for next time. Okay, so ending off here a little bit early, but again, I got through where I wanted to get through here for a majority of the examples and the topics that I want to cover here for today. All right. Okay, so again, I'm going to end off here for today, but I'm going to be back here on Thursday once again. We're going to finish up here the section 9.2. We'll get right into section 9.3. And then, we should be set up and ready to go for finishing off this textbook here by next week. So we're in really, really good shape. I can definitely say that with a degree of certainty. Okay. So sit back, relax, and enjoy yourselves, I suppose. And we're going to be talking a lot more about the end of the semester stuff here for you guys to take care of. So a lot of stuff to discuss here once we get down to the end of the semesters for sure. All right. Okay, I'm going to keep the stream open here, but I'll just play some music here in the background while we do that. All right. And for those of you in the 11 o'clock class, I'm going to be back here in give me about 10 minutes. All right. All right. Have a great one, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. All right. Take care, everybody. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Hello again. Good morning, Carissa. How are you? How are you doing today? Good. I'm pretty chill. Hey, Patricia. How are you doing today? Hopefully everybody's ready for another rip-roaring day. My Thanksgiving was wonderful. I stayed with my mom and my sister for a couple of days. And we went over to my aunt's house, which isn't about a 10-15 minute drive away. And we spent it with them. And my other aunt and uncle came by, so it was not like a huge gathering. Um, they sat down and had dinner together. We haven't, and my cousin had her baby over the weekend as well, so that was really amazing too. So in our family, if you're a cousin, basically you become an uncle. So that's just how it works in our family. So because we're all pretty tight knit, so um, our whole family's tight knit, including all the cousins. So if they have children, we just call each other aunts and uncles. So yeah. So it's my cousin's first child. So really, really wonderful to see the baby's healthy and everything like that. So it's adorable. So hopefully after a few months, I'll be able to, check out the child and stuff. So I'm not gonna risk anything right now. So if I wait a few months, I think I'll be okay. Yeah, yeah. I'd say congratulations to her. I'm telling you, carrying children around. Holy moly, just oof, oof. They had to uh induce labor on my cousin. So the doctor got a little nervous because my cousin was showing a little bit of slightly high blood pressure. So the doctor's like, yeah, it was 3 weeks from the delivery date. So the doctor's like, yeah, maybe we should induce it now, just to be on the safe side. So yeah. On top of that, my cousin who had the child, she actually worked in the ER. So you can imagine how crazy that is. It gets crazy on top of crazy. Doctor's like, yeah, no, given your background and given this, yeah, let's just go ahead and get it over with. Yeah, you know how it goes. It's like my mom told me the story when I was born. I think it's the funniest story I've ever heard, right? So my mom's super traditional, right? So when she tried to have my sister, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have to do a C-section because the cervix is a little bit too small to push the baby through." So they're like, "Okay, we have to do the C-section here." So my mom, when she was having me, she said I went to the hospital, and she's told they told the doctor, "Yeah, I'm gonna try and have the child naturally." Doctor takes one look at the chart, takes one look at my mom, says, "Yeah, we're doing a C-section." Let's get her in the labor. Like, let's go. My mom's like couldn't even argue. He's like, just go. just get it done. I was like trying to be insistent, like he's like, nah, this ain't gonna work. Bye. Let's just get it over with. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're ready to go. I think everybody's here, so I think positive vibes all around for everyone. All right. I know. My mom's like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, look, that's just how it has to be. Okay. Doctor didn't give two craps about your opinion. You know why? Because you were wrong. So I came into the world. I came into the world a nice, healthy baby. Good. Hey, it's Daniel. Okay, 42 feet long and 10 tons. You see that big crocodile out in Florida? I couldn't even imagine like something that's bigger than that and wider and taller, and be like, holy crap! It's just like it's time for me to walk away in the other direction. But I wonder if that was millions of years ago, where gigantism uh was pretty big back then due to the Earth's environment. Very important though. All right. Yeah, I could totally imagine that. Could totally imagine that. I mean, the environment back then was much more humid, and much more rich in oxygen. So I think maybe I got that backwards, but yeah, it promoted gigantism. So when's the test due? The test is due on Friday, or Sunday, whatever I set it at. I think I set it for Friday or Sunday. Something something Sunday. Yeah, the 6th. Yeah. The 6th of December. Correct. Good morning, Samantha. Samantha, how are you doing? All right, then let's go ahead and talk about some things here. All right. Heyo, Alex. How are you doing, my friend? Robert, good morning, my friend. How are you guys doing today? Hopefully, guys, you're doing very well. I'm doing very well. I had a great Thanksgiving. The whole 9 yards, my dude. It's been an up and down. It's been an up and down day, but more ups than downs. I can guarantee you that. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. All right, let's do this. Okay, let's get started today. Welcome back. Welcome back to Tuesday. Hopefully, everyone had a very wonderful and nice Thanksgiving holiday. All right. So, all right. So, we have a couple of things that we need to talk about here first and foremost before we get started here with today's lesson. So, what I want to talk about here is, of course, what's upcoming here for the remainder of the semester, because now we're kind of in the home stretch here. So the last chapter that we have to do, and the one that we're going to start on here with for today, is chapter 9, which is going to talk about sign numbers. All right, and I'm going to do a section and a half here from chapter 9 here today. So we're going to finish another section and a half, and then we'll probably finish off section 9.4, the last section of chapter 9 here on next week. All right, and we'll also be discussing here probably either next class or next Tuesday. We're also going to be discussing, of course, the last exam, which will be on chapter 9, and also the final exam as well. So we're going to talk about both of those things there and get you situated in terms of information and whatnot in terms of due dates and all that stuff. And start to kind of improve a grade, those kind of things like that. All that stuff there will be fairly important. Okay. Have we started chapter 9? No, we're starting that today. No, we're skipping chapter 7 and 8. So it's from chapter 6, that's what we did last time, and then we're skipping right over to chapter 9. So remember, anything that I've posted here on the homework are only the sections that we're going to be covering. Okay, so there should be no guessing. All right, I'm not going to magically be adding. I think I only added one section, that was from chapter 6. But outside of that, there's no other sections that are being added. All the homework is already there and posted, so should be good to go in that regard. All right, so that is what's on the agenda here for upcoming classes here. I fully expect us to finish by next week, with the whole book and stuff, and then we can talk about some review there, possibly for the remaining classes or whatnot. So, which I don't mind answering questions and anything like that. So, so perfectly fine here. Getting yourselves taken care of. We're gonna end pretty early here. We're gonna end early. I think considering it's been an online class, actually typically I would have ended 2 weeks early, but a week early is pretty good too. So I ain't gonna complain. All right. Does anybody have any other questions regarding tests, homework, or the like? None? Okay. When is this class over? Are you talking about today, or are you talking about the date of the last class? The last day? Now, I want to say the last day here is technically the 16th, I think. 16th or 17th? One of those 2 days. So yeah, like the 16th or 17th, which is like I think the Wednesday or the Thursday of finals week. I've seen it go up to like Thursday, but I have to look back at the original schedule there. I could look back at my syllabus actually. I probably listed it there. Honestly, I don't really keep track that closely. I just kind of do what I have to do and just I kind of do what I got to do, and then magic happens. But I'll take a look at the syllabus here. What did I put? The 17th. So that's that Thursday there. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, let's get going here with the new material here in chapter 9. That's what we're going to be doing here today, talking about positive and negative numbers. So this time I won't forget to do this from last time. I'll go to the big screen here. I forgot to do this for like the first 5 minutes. I was very ashamed of myself, and yeah, I was not happy with myself. uh, Too funny. I wish I was smarter. I'm not, but I'm trying. All right. All right. So today we're going to be talking about numbers. Okay, we'll talk about how it works here with numbers. It's really not too hard with positive and negative numbers here. So I'll be just kind of presenting this in my own way here today to kind of showcase exactly how this will go. Okay, well, let's talk about some of the basics here. In this first section, we're talking about a lot of basics here about positive and negative numbers. So let's go ahead and talk about this here first. Numbers greater than 0 are called positive numbers. All right, and numbers less than 0 are called negative numbers. Okay, so any number that's positive will be bigger than 0. Any number that's negative will be less than 0. So to write a negative number, we're going to put a negative sign in front of it. Okay, so for example, as we are maybe familiar with here, if I say -3 or -3, well, that's okay. I can tack on a negative there in the front to make that a signed number. Okay, now let's take a good look here. We're going to look at some examples here that are going to use the number line here. And I want to talk about some of the things that we see here in this case. Now, I'm going to do these examples here. They're not too hard. But what I want to focus on here is the picture itself that you see here on the screen. Okay, so let's talk about that picture here really carefully. Now, in the middle here, you see 0. Now, all the numbers here, we have 1 through 8, and that could go on forever as far as we're concerned. But here, again, if we go to the right here, let's say we cut over to the right here. In this case here, okay, right means positive. So right means positive, all right? And if we go to the left of 0, as we see here, left means negative. So we'll go ahead and write that down here. Now, everything in the negative side is just a mirror reflection. As a mirrored reflection, everything is backwards on the negative side. So we have the positive side, and then you take the mirrored reflection of that, everything's kind of swapped around. And again, as you see here, the most important part to see is that, for example here, -5 is further to the left than -4. So essentially what this means is that negative numbers get smaller as you go further left. Okay, so the further left you go, that means that numbers will get smaller as a result. So even though you look at, say, -8, -8 is further left than, say, -2. So what that means is that -8 is a smaller number than that of -2. Okay, this is going to prove to be a very important point here, as we are going to at least start off with comparing two numbers here together right here on the number line. Now, basically, some of these questions here are fairly straightforward. Okay, let's talk about what that means. If we're graphing each set of numbers here respectively, let's say graphing these numbers on a number line, honestly speaking, this isn't too hard. All you have to do is put dots at each one of these numbers here. So for example, if you have -1, some of the homework questions may ask you this. I don't really care for this too much, but again, here you see -1, just put a dot at -1. You see 1, put a dot at 1. You see -3, put a dot at -3. You see 3, put a dot at 3. Again, just following the numbers that we are listed here, whatever they are. -2, 4, 0, -1, and -4. I'm just going to go ahead and place dots there at those respective numbers. That's essentially how you graph these set of numbers here. It's really not too hard and something I'm not going to really focus on too much. Some of these parts here that I'm going to show you, I'm going to skim over a little bit just like this because I don't feel it's like super important, but the stuff that I feel would be important will be the stuff we'll spend a little bit more time on in this section. So again, a positive number can be written in two different ways. We can write the number 3 or we can write +3. Both ways are just fine. You'll see it written in both ways. Okay, whatever. All right, now, the more important points here I want to talk about is comparing two numbers here together. And so what we're going to focus on here is we're going to focus on how do we compare two numbers here together, two signed numbers together. Let's talk about the inequalities, though, that we may need to put in between. So we have this symbol right here. All right, so this symbol right here means less than. Okay, so this means less than. So if I were to type this out, if I said A with the symbol here of B, then basically the way I read this is I say A is less than B. Okay? A is less than B. So if I'm saying it in my mind or I'm saying it out loud, I basically look from left to right and I say, all right, A is less than B. That's essentially what that notation is looking at. Here, on the other side, we have the other, kind of flipping it around, going the other way. This means bigger than, okay? Bigger than or more than, whatever you want to call it here. In any case, if I have, again, this inequality that just looks like so, then I can read it out as A is bigger than B. Okay? Okay, now, I want to point out one important note here in regards to this. So we'll talk about that here in just a second, but let's point out an important note here about the notation. Now, if you're really confused about which notation should go where, about if it should be, the pointy end to the left or the pointy end to the right, or the open end to the left or open end to the right, here's a good way to kind of think about it this way. So let's put a note here. Again, the open end always faces the bigger number, I guess is the best way to put it. So the larger the two numbers or the bigger the two numbers there is always going to be the open end. All right, so the pointy end is going to basically point toward the smaller number, or the open end always faces the bigger number. Okay, this has to be true in this circumstance. Now, how do we interpret that specifically here in this case? So if we take a look here at both of these, if we want to say what's the smaller of the two numbers, so the smaller of the two numbers is the one that's further to the left on a number line. So the further left you go, the smaller that you get. Or if you want to find the bigger of the two numbers, the bigger of the two numbers is the one farther to the right on a number line. Okay. So those are the things that we're going to use here in order to figure out, to compare two numbers together, whether it's, say, bigger than or it's less than. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some examples, and let's work on them together here. Okay, so here what we can see is we see the number line here in question. But let's go ahead and compare 2 and 6. Okay, all right. Now, the question that they're asking us here is basically this. Is 2 less than 6 or is 2 bigger than 6? Go ahead and type out the inequality in the chat there. Is 2 less than 6 or 2 bigger than 6 here? Okay, say less than. Okay, good. That is correct. All right. So the way we want to read this is, if this confuses you, sometimes people get hung up on this, to be fair. To be fair, that happens. So what we want to say here specifically is we could say, again, 2 is, I want to, come here. 2 is, oops, less than 6. Thinking another example. So where we read it from left to right, we say 2 is less than 6, all right? So we read it from left to right. Again, as we can see here on the number line, 2 is further to the left than 6, okay? Or you can look at it vice versa. 6 is further to the right than 2. But again, since we read it from left to right typically, basically at the end of the day, 2 is going to be less than 6. All right? Any questions about that? Nope. All right. Let's look at the next one here. -9 and -4. What's that going to be? So -9, we have less than, less than. Okay. All right, very good. That is correct. So the answer is indeed less than. Again, it looks confusing at first because Again, we always think, oh, well, 9 is bigger than 4, but this is in negative territory. So -9 is going to be, again, is further to the left than that of -4. Okay? So -9 is further to the left of -4. So again, that means that -9 is less than -4 as a result. Okay. Next we have 2 and -1. Is what's that going to be there? All right. Great. Bigger than is correct. Come on. There we go. Bigger than is spot on there. Good. 2 is further to the right than that of -1. So again, here's -1, but 2 is over here further to the right. So just starting from left to right here. So 2 is bigger than -1. All right. How about that last one there? Okay, good. Excuse me. Goodness. All right. Pardon me. Right. Oh, thank you. So -4 is less than 0. All right, so that's correct. -4 is further to the left there. And there we go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, now let's have you guys try maybe 1. I only try one on this next part here. Just try 3 here. What about that one there? -8, -9. Is that less than or bigger than? You know, well, we got a split vote here. Oh, Carissa's a little bit behind there, but that's okay. Carissa, if you can hear this message, go ahead and refresh your stream. You're just a bit behind. Yeah, just hit F5, Carissa. Okay, so I see some less thans, I see some bigger thans. All right, now of course, obviously we only have 2 choices, but let's go ahead and zoom out here for just a moment. Okay, let's take a look at our number line here. All right, now if we take a good look at our number line here, let's look carefully. Notice that -8 and -9, they're right next to each other, right? -8 is further to the right than that of -9. So it's just 1 unit over, but it's 1 unit over to the right, which means that here, -8 is bigger than -9. Now this is why I asked this specific question here, because again, what you need to remove a bad habit here is you need to not think, when you're dealing with negative numbers, you can't think that 9 is bigger than 8 and that means that it has to work that way. Like, no, it has to be, everything is flipped around. It's basically, everything's reflected around. So if you need to draw out a number line, you can do so, but -8 further to the right than -9, as we can see here. Okay. All right. Oh, you're in the car connected to a hotspot. Oh, wait. Wait, why are you in the car, Carissa? I'm confused. Are you like doing a Starbucks run? Is that how it is? I don't know. I'm just asking. So first, there you go. All right, let's move on here. Okay. All right. Next, we're going to talk about absolute value. Before we do, are there any questions? Any questions at all before I move on? Nada. None. Zip. Zilch. Zitch. Zilcherino. Nadarino. All right. Good stuff. Okay. Now. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I see. I see. I see. All right. I gotcha. Should just ask your boyfriend to have like, a super antenna jutting out of his plates. So that way you can get reception at any time. You know. Hey, Mexican food, can't go wrong with that. That's some good stuff right there. All right. No complaints. No complaints about Mexican food, ladies and gentlemen. No complaints. Mm-mm-mm. That sounds pretty good. Love me my Mexican food. Get me some tortas, man. That's pretty funny, Chris. Um, okay, let's go ahead and talk about absolute values. Okay. Let's talk about absolute values before I start thinking about tortas. Oh, I'm getting super hungry again. Like, hey, I need some burritos, some tortas, empanadas, some enchiladas, maybe some bistec con rajas. There you go. Go to Tapatios or by Walmart. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right. All right, but let's talk about absolute values because absolute values got to take precedence here. All right, so how does it work with absolute values here? First, let's talk about the notation here for absolute values. The notation here for absolute values is going to look like this. You got the you got the steak torta. I think everybody's going to go get steak tortas after I'm done here. So notation here is going to look like this. The absolute value of A. Now let's talk about what the key is here for the absolute value of A here. So again, the key here is that is this for absolute values is that everything becomes positive when put inside the absolute value. Okay, so when the absolute value is applied, then everything becomes positive. So I guess I'll say evaluated using the absolute value. I kind of rephrased that wrong there. Well, I want to take a key note here for this, okay? Now, there's an important note regarding that. And we're going to see this here in the last section of chapter 9, but I do want to state how we want to actually view absolute value. All right? Remember, for absolute value here, all right, absolute value will be viewed as parentheses when doing order of operations. So basically, we look at it as parentheses there. We apply the absolute value after that. So essentially, just like we do parentheses first and then so on and so forth at parentheses exponents, add, multiply, divide, add, subtract, all that stuff. Again, we're going to be using absolute value here. We viewed as parentheses actually when we're going to be doing order of operations. So we're going to come back to this fact here. Again, we're not doing too much here in regards to that fact here, But I want you to keep that in the back of your head here once we do acknowledge questions here that do use order of operations. Okay. All right. Now, one more thing here is the second, the big key here is how to interpret absolute value. Remember that absolute value here works like this. Again, the absolute value of A is equal to A, or the absolute value of minus A, well, everything is positive in absolute value land, so that's still going to be A. All right, so no matter what number you put in there, whether that's a positive number or a negative number, you're going to get a positive value that spits back out through absolute value. Now, the question is, well, what happens next? All right, so what's the absolute value of 8? Let's take a look at that. What's the absolute value of 8? What's that going to be? 8. That's right. So even if it's a positive value, hey, we get the same positive thing back. Positive land. Absolute value land is always positive. It's amazing. All right. How about minus 8? Yeah, minus 8, we still get 8. Sounds like a plan. How about 0? Yep, 0. 0 effectively doesn't do anything. So, yeah, 0 is just kind of there. It's not positive or negative. We don't really care. So, it's there. All right, now let's look at this last one here. We have a negative, the absolute value of negative 3. What's that going to be? Okay, we get 3 here. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this one here in a little bit more detail. All right, I'm going to tell you the answer here. The answer to this problem here is going to be indeed what I think it is minus 3. All right, the answer is minus 3. I had to get one in. There you go. All right. You guys are like, I was right. And be like, oh, denied. All right. All right. So the answer is minus 3, but let's go ahead and take a look at why it is minus 3. Okay. So let's erase that again. Need to write that a bit better. Not nice. Yeah. Hey, I could be a big meanie head. It's okay. Don't worry. I'm going to show you why it's not positive 3 here. Okay. So let's talk about the note that we put up here. Okay. So why does it work out to be minus 3 and not positive 3? Let's take a look at that here, because 3 is a very valid answer. And probably what you were thinking there is, okay, I put the negative there I do the negative first, and then I take this, absolute value of 3, and then I'm done. Okay. But the absolute value has to be viewed as the parentheses when doing the order of operations. So remember that basically what you want to do here specifically is you actually have to do the absolute value first. You do everything on the inside of the absolute value, then do the absolute value function, and then go ahead and take care of anything there on the outside. So let me go ahead and type that out here. So one of the key things here, let me put another note here, note number 2. Okay, so note number 2 here is basically saying, all right, do what is inside the absolute value first, then do the absolute value of that number, and then tack on anything else at the end of the after that. Anything else after that? Yeah, probably should say it that way. All right. So Here we get, again, so how does it look here? What does that mean if we were to take a look at this problem here? This negative that you see here is separate than that of the absolute value of -3. So I'm going to do the absolute value of -3 here. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to bring over this negative that I see on the outside. And then this part here, this absolute value of -3, that's actually just 3, just like you thought it was. Okay, that's the 3 part there, but that's just the absolute value part. And so if I put those two together there, I get -3 as a result. Okay. All right, any questions about that? Okay, so let's take a look at this one here. What's number 3 then? What would number 3 be here in this case? Yeah. So now using the same technique, now that you have that down, that'll be -17 here on in that case. So that is correct. All right. Now, let's move on here. Let's do this. All right. All right, let's talk about opposite numbers. Yeah. This is let me take 30 seconds of your life and teach you this. Okay. Let's talk about the key here for opposite numbers. Key here is just to tack on a negative in front. That's it. I'll put a note here. Note, if the number is already negative, make the number positive instead. All right, that's the opposite numbers there. That's all I really have to say about that. So if I have a 5, the opposite number here is -5. If I have 9, the opposite here is -9. If I have 0, that's just straight up 0 still. 0 does not positive or negative, doesn't really matter. And then we have -4/5 if we look at +4/5. Yeah. All right. 30 seconds to a minute. Easy life. All right. All right. Let's take a good look here at this next one. How about -2? What's the opposite of -2? Okay, +2. Good beans. Yeah. +9. +1/2. Oh boy. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, you have been sufficiently bored. Congratulations. All right. Great job, everybody. You're the best. All right. Okie dokie. All right, let's do this here. All right. Subtract signed numbers, add or subtract a series of signed numbers. Okay. So let's talk about the next section here. Let's do the next section here, which is section 9.2. We're going to talk about the first half of this, which is talking about adding signed numbers here together. Now, this is all well and good with number lines and stuff, but I don't really care about the number lines too much. I'll show you how to do it here because, of course, the homework may ask you to do it. But I'm going to go over the methods about how to actually add these together here in a much more concise manner. So let's talk about the methods here. So for example, if we were to add, say, something like 4 plus -1, how would we solve for something like that? However, in order to actually understand how signed numbers work, what you need to understand is that when we're adding two numbers here together, and this will be relevant for subtracting two numbers as well, once we take a look at that here in the next class, um, we're going to look at 3 individual cases, okay? So we're going to have 3 cases here. All right, the first 2 cases here are pretty easy, and then the last case is what we're really going to be looking at. But let's go over each case here. Okay, case number 1. So let's say both numbers are positive, okay? So go with the premise here that both numbers are positive, all right? So it's like, okay, fine. Both numbers are positive, great. All right, no problemo. So if both numbers are positive, to add these together here, the method that we want to use here, the method to use here specifically is going to be, again, just add straight up. So add, I should say add both numbers straight up. Okay, so not too hard. If you have like 5 plus 6, then you just add them straight up, you get 11. Yeah. All right, so not too hard there. Again, everybody's pretty familiar with that. All right, shouldn't be too much of a problem. Okay, now, so not going to waste time on that, obviously, but okay. Now let's look at case number 2. What happens if both numbers are negative? How do we go ahead and approach that, where both numbers are negative? So for example here, what if we had, say, minus 5 plus minus 2? Okay, let's say we're adding these 2 numbers here together. We want to do minus 5 plus minus 2. Okay, let's talk about the method here in this case. All right, so the method here is basically to ignore the negatives, add the 2 numbers straight up. Why I did that? Oh, I know why. Hang on a sec. Shit. Let me try this again. Okay, ignore the negatives. Mercy. I didn't want that to happen, sorry. I'm trying to get it to be like right here. Want me to do it. Just a second. Be good. Good. There we go. So ignore the negatives. Add the 2 numbers straight up. Add the numbers straight up. And then tack on a negative at the end. Okay, so that's essentially what we're doing here in this case. We're going to ignore the negatives, add the numbers straight up, and then tack on the negative at the end. All right, that's all I really want to do for that one, essentially. Okay, so really not too hard. All right, so what do we do in this case here? Well, basically at the end of the day, because both of the numbers here are negative, I know that my final answer is also going to be negative as a result. So all I'm going to do here is, if I have negative 5 plus negative 2, is I'm just going to do 5 plus 2, which is really super simple. That's going to be 7. And at the end of the day, I'm just going to tack on a negative at the end, since both numbers were negative to start with. And that's basically all you have to do for case number 2. It's just that easy. Nothing too complicated. That's all you got to look out for. Okay. Now, let's look at the last case, though. Now, the last case is the toughest case here. Now, we'll spend a little time on this. So what happens if you have, say, something like 4 plus negative 1, or like this problem here, negative 6 plus 2, or anything of the like? Okay, let's take a look at that here. So let's look at case number 3. Is that one number is negative and one number is positive. Now, for this particular part here, we're going to look at this in steps. Okay? So let's go over the steps here, and let's go ahead and see what we're going to get here in this case. All right. So step number 1 says, all right, now we want to determine which number is, well, we don't want to determine which one's negative and which one's positive. Instead, what we're going to do is, ignoring the negative here, well, actually, not so much ignoring the negative, we're going to determine which number is larger from, basically ignoring the sign, and determine the sign of that number. Now, this will be important for the subsequent steps, so you'll see how it works. So, determine which number is larger, and then determine the sign of that number there based on what you see. Step 2, ignoring the negative, subtract the larger number from the smaller number. Okay? So just ignore the negative, just subtract the bigger number from the smaller number. I don't care how it's written. It doesn't matter. That's the way I'm going to do it. Okay? Finally, step number 3 here is probably the easiest step. Okay, once you got that together. So you got your answer there, right? So use the sign that you determined in step 1 and put it in front of the answer that you got in step 2. Okay? So that is how those 3 steps are going to work. Now you're probably saying, well, whoa, time out. How does this help me with negative 6 plus 2? And that's a fair question. Well, it definitely does help us out here, by the way, of negative 6 plus 2. So negative 6 plus 2 is going to work like this, where essentially what we want to have happen here is that we want to say, let's take a look here at step 1, all right? And we'll go through each step here for this. We want to determine which number is larger. So I look at, again, negative 6 plus 2. So the only 2 things I care about here is the 6 and the 2. I'm going to ignore any signs or anything. Now, I know for a fact that 6 is going to be the bigger of the 2 numbers. So what I do know here is that in my final answer here from step 1, okay, this doesn't determine what our final answer is, but it does help us out here significantly. Our final answer here is 6, as you can see here, is negative. All right. Now, since 6 is negative, our final answer is also going to be negative in nature. All right. So we're going to use that there at the very end, that 3rd step. All right. But our final answer that we can take to the bank here is that 6 is bigger and it happens to be negative. So our final answer has to be negative something at the end of the day. Step 2 basically says, all right, take these 2 numbers and subtract them. Bigger number minus smaller number. And 6 minus 2 is very manageable. All right, that's pretty easy. That's 4. All right, easy peasy. Finally, all we have to do is take the result that we got here from step 1 and we have step 2. So we have 4 here, and then we just tack on a negative there because our final answer has to be negative as a result. And so our final answer here is negative 4. Now, I find this method here to be significantly easier. Now, the reason why I find this method to be significantly easier is because I don't have to try so hard, okay, for finding the final answer. On the number line, it can be more confusing. For example here, in this case, we have minus 6 plus 2. Well, you can put circles and arrows and whatnot. All that stuff is all well and good. But here's the nice part about using this method beforehand if you're going to try and express it on a number line. See, if you already know where you start and you already know what your destination is, all you got to do is start from, in this case, -6, and I'll just put a dot here on -6. And I know that I have to end at -4. So, because that's our final answer, so we're just going to draw an arrow to the right here, out to -4. And there you go. -6 to -4. And that represents -6 plus 2. That's it. So I don't have to guess. I don't have to worry about how many units go in this way, that way, and the other way. I know where I need to start. I know where I need to end. Draw the arrow to the end, which I already know from my final answer between -6 and +2. All right, same thing with -3 plus -5. If I do that out, again, I could just take 3 plus 5. 3 plus 5 is 8, and we just tack on the negative there at the end since both of them are negative to start with. And if you want to represent that on the number line, you just start at -3 since that's the first number you see. Your final destination should be -8. So just draw an arrow there out to -8. And there you go, you're done. That's it. Any questions about that? Ah, all right. That works. All right. So let's go ahead and try some problems here. I'm not going to do the number line ones because I don't think that they're worth it. Not very important there. All right. So first, let's have you guys try. Yeah, let's have you guys try these 4 right here. I want you to try these 4 right here. All right. So let's take a minute or two and try these 4. All right. We'll come back and give it a go. Okay. The -8, -23, -36, and -18. All right. So it looks like Patricia got the same answers there. All right. Well, let's take a look and see if we indeed have the same ones here. All right. So we have -4 plus another -4. Again, just do 4 plus 4. and that equals 8. Tack on a negative at the end, and there you go. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Same thing here. Do 3 plus 20. That's 23. Tack on that negative there at the end, and there you go. Here we get 31 plus 5, which is equal to 36. And tack that on that negative there at the end. There you go. And then finally, 10 plus 8 equals negative 18. All right, so really quick, fast, and easy problems here. This just involves two negative numbers here. No problemo. All right, good. Nice job. All right, now let's do another set of examples. Okay, so I want you to try these 4 examples now. Now it's a mix between positive and negative numbers here. Let's take a minute or so and let's give these problems a try. So we got 5, we got 5 minus 8, 6 and 4. Okay. 5 minus 8 minus 6, so minus 6 and 4. Okay, so looks like Daniel, you got positive 6 for C, and then Patricia got minus 6 for C. So one of those is correct. Either Daniel or Patricia, one of those for C. Whereas the rest of your answers match up. So all right. Well, let's take a good look here and see which one is going to be our winner. All right. So 8 plus negative 3. All right. So first of all, I look at 8 and 3 here. All right. 8 is going to be the bigger number of the two. Okay. Wait, C is minus 6. Okay. Well, let's find out if that is true. All right. So I'm going to put FA here. FA just represents final answer. Okay. I'm not going to keep writing final answer repetitively over and over again. But my final answer is because 8 is the bigger of the two numbers. The final answer here is going to be positive. And I just do 8 minus 3. And that's going to be 5. And then I tack on the sign there at the end. So our answer here is positive 5. Well, that is correct. Next one here, 4 and 12. And our winner here between the bigger of the two numbers here is 12. So our final answer here specifically has to be, again, because 12 here happens to be negative. So we do 12 minus 4. And so here we get 8. And then we just tack on that negative since that final answer has to be negative here from the first step. So minus 8 is correct. Next is the big one here, C. So we have 21 and 15. We compare the two. 21 here is going to be, again, the bigger of the two numbers. And so as a good adjustment, and indeed is negative since 21 is negative, do 21 minus 15. And so 21 minus 15 here is equal to 6. But because our final answer is negative, we're going to tack that on at the end. Finally, we have 13 and negative 9. Minus 6 is correct there. So we have 13 and 9. Go ahead and circle the 13 here. Again, our final answer here is going to be positive since 13 is positive. So we do 13 minus 9. And so that's equal to 4, i.e. positive 4. Okay. All right. So basically, that's what we have our answers here. Plus 5, again, minus 8, minus 6, and positive 4. All right. Excellent work. Great job, everybody. Okay. Any questions about adding or subtracting here in this regard? No? All right. That's perfectly fine. All right. Good beans. All right. Let's focus on the next part here. The next part here is talking about additive inverses. Okay. So looking at additive inverses here isn't too hard to figure out, but we're going to take a look anyway, and we'll see exactly what we're working with. All right, so what is an additive inverse? An inverse is a number that you add together with another number whose sum is 0, okay? So what does this really mean at the end of the day? I.e., the opposite number of your original number. So we talked about opposite numbers in the first section here. And an additive inverse is just, again, you add the number, add it together with another number whose sum is going to be 0. So no matter what, you add those two numbers here together, and it's always going to be 0 at the end of the day. So if I look at 6, I look at the additive inverse. The additive inverse is just the opposite of 6, which is minus 6. Fine. And all you have to do here is just the sum of this number and the inverse. That's 6 plus negative 6. And no matter what, when you add these two together here, that's effectively going to be 0. All right, great. All right, what about minus 8? What's the additive inverse for minus 8? AKA, what's the opposite of minus 8? 8. That's right, positive 8. So positive 8 is the opposite of minus 8. And if we just add that together, we have minus 8 plus 8. Again, the sum here will always be 0 because they're additive inverses of each other. So if you take your number, you add it to its opposite counterpart, well, you get nowhere. You just get 0 at the end of the day. And 4 here will be minus 4. And we get 4 plus negative 4. That equals 0. And you get the general gist. Really, this concept here isn't too hard to figure out. It's like, again, wow, it's a thing. It does things. Things happened. Magic. I waved a stick around. It was great. All right, any questions about that? All right, good beans. All right, so this is where I'm going to be stopping here for today. All right, so this is where we're stopping here for today. All right, is is just that. All right, so we're going to resume here to next time on subtracting sign numbers. And so when we talk about subtracting sign numbers, we'll be talking about that. And then we'll also be talking about multiplying sign numbers here as well. Hello, Crevette. How are you doing, my friend? Um, right, so subtracting sign numbers here will have a lot to do with what we talked about here today, adding sign numbers. Okay, so we'll be seeing those same techniques being done. And it also has a little bit to do with multiplication as well. So I want to kind of tie those two things up together. All right. Again, we'll be talking more about the test here and the homework here probably next time, or again next week at least for sure. I'm doing very well, Crevette. I hope you're doing well. All right. Great. Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming out here today. All right. I really appreciate the time and the energy and the love. All right. You guys are all wonderful people. You're great. Do I teach Math 095 next semester? Fortunately, no. I'll be doing statistics next semester. So stats is for me. So that's 3 classes in statistics. So, but if you need help with any mathematics there, Sion, feel free to contact and reach out to me, okay? I'll be happy to help you regardless, all right? Just because I'm not Yeah, just because I'm not your teacher doesn't mean I won't sit down and help you anyway. What's my stream? That's okay. That's okay, Crevette. Yeah, so this is a mathematics class, actually. Um, I teach math for a living. I'm a professor of mathematics. Um, so yeah, this is a class. So if you need math help for school and whatnot, then that's exactly what this channel is for. Sometimes I play games every once in a while, but not too often. But um, but yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. I use it for teaching my online lessons. Yeah, you're more than welcome to come by and stop by my lessons. I hope they can be helpful. I'm not too great at physics, but at least the mathematics behind it, I can actually do a little bit of that. Physics was never one of my strong suits, surprisingly enough. I just got really sour to the idea after running into not so great teacher. So yeah, but you can feel free at any time. That's perfectly fine. Switch over here. There we are. On some music. It's not this song. Yeah, again, anybody's welcome here in the stream, Crevette, at any moment in time. If you learn something out of it, I'll be very happy. So that's all that's here for, just to educate. So the tag is definitely no lie. All right, this is just educational, and it's there just for you. Yeah, you know what, Anna? I slept really well yesterday. I went to sleep at like 7 o'clock, and I was knocked the heck out until like 3 in the morning. Like I just put my head down and I just immediately went to sleep. Like there was nothing left. I had nothing in the tank left. What time is it for me? It's a little bit afternoon. It's 12:13 p.m. right here. How about where you're at, Crevette? What country are you from? End of the semester tiredness? Yeah. I don't even think it was that. I think my sleep schedule was all over the place. I just had a messed up sleep schedule. So, to be fair. Oh, okay. It's a little bit past 1900. Okay. What country are you from, Crevette? You're French. Wonderful, my friend. How's the weather there over in France? It's a little bit cold here today. The homework here today, Jacob, is section 9.1 and 9.2. Return. All right, let me find out. If I'm saying that correctly anyway. Sounds like the area of Brittany, but maybe I'm wrong. It is in Brittany. Okay, I am right. Every time I think of, I'm like Breton. That sounds like Brittany. It was like I remember that very distinctly from uh knowing a little bit of geography. Oh, okay. So you are from Brittany. Wonderful, wonderful. Let me put the map up here. Uh, go. So you're in Los Angeles right now. What are you doing in LA, my friend? You got visiting some relatives or doing some work out there, Jacob? Brittany's got to be beautiful. You're right along the coast. You know, it looks, Brittany looks like a. It looks like some. It looks like a really nice weather probably out there. Although ocean weather, I would understand. Their crevette, but I think. Oh, that's okay. Let's try this. I think this will translate for you. Oh, you wanted to go exploring? Wonderful. I hope you have a lot of fun. I've been to LA a couple of times, but at least for me, Jacob, LA wasn't the best city. I didn't really like it too much, but that's just me. I'm not a super fan of LA. My dad lives out in the San Francisco area, but you have a flat and wow, wow, wow. That does have to be beautiful and very relaxing. That's fair to ask. So I'm from Chicago, or the Chicago area, technically. But to make it easier, we all say we're from Chicago anyway. that over here. Bed. That part I didn't need to look at. All right, Jacob. We'll see you on Thursday, my friend. You have a good one. Oh, okay. That's it. It's not too bad. I'm not too concerned about that, though. Eh. All right. Sure, I can show Chicago on the map. So here's Chicago, but let me go ahead and zoom out here. My next class that I'm teaching here is, excuse me, at 4 o'clock here, Anna. 4 o'clock. Although I would like to talk to you about your Thanksgiving there, Anna, as it sounds like you had a very interesting Thanksgiving. You've never experienced like this like it before. Well, why don't you tell me, what was it like? What was your Thanksgiving like? Because I remember we talked about it, and yeah, you know, obviously with COVID and everything, it was a little hard. So it was a little hard. So uh, you know, with you not being able to visit relatives and whatnot. So just curious how you decided to make do with maybe some local friends or something like that. Okay. All right, that's fair. Doing meals for them and my aunt, my uncle. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. Is your uncle doing chemotherapy right now? Let me switch my camera here. Very, very sorry to hear that your uncle has to go through that. Cancer is cancer's a terrible thing. Nobody should have to deal with that. That's the worst thing to deal with ever. So, two more radiation and one more chemo. Oh boy. Well, best of luck to your uncle, and I hope he can beat this thing. Hopefully he can beat cancer and win. Cancer's a bitch, but it's one that can be beaten down. And your uncle sounds like a fighter. So my love goes out to you again. I wonder. Hmm. Dealing with the congregation, okay. You were thrown back into a spotlight you were trying to get out of. That's an interesting way of putting things. When you say spotlight there, Anna, what do you mean? I mean, obviously, obviously those are circumstances that are beyond your control. But but it sounds like there's more to it than just that, if I may ask. I don't want to sound rude though. Ah, I see. Okay. Your dad and your mom are pastor kids. Your dad is a pastor. Okay, I see. So you're that's okay, Crevette. No problem, my friend. Not a problem. Feel free to ask me any questions. So I see. What denomination or I don't know. There's a lot of denominations of churches and things like that. So I guess I should ask. One of my good friends out in Japan actually was a youth minister for a Pentecostal service when I was in Japan. Mennonite, okay, respect. I respect any and all religions. I just am very curious because there's so many different sects and whatnot. So I basically don't know one from the other, but in any case, I respect any and all of them. If you're trying to spread. Have I ever quit the USA? At a time, I did. Uh, so oops, that should say yes instead of sorry, Cravette. That should say yes. There we go. Not sure I put yes. Yeah, I'm guessing you don't like to. Is it just like you don't want to give like the sermons, or it's just a lot of work? Because if that's the case, then I understand. Ah, yes. Lunchtime is a little bit later, Cravette. You're on the phone way too much. People asking when to drop off foods. Okay. Your sister came down from Pittsburgh, okay? She and your dad are building a dresser. Oh, wonderful. I see. I'm so glad that you have a very good support community. I think that's wonderful. Having a good community of support is really good. But remember, if it does feel overwhelming for you, Anna, just go ahead and take a step back for a little bit. I know obviously people need you now, and that's what we do. Of course, you step in when you're absolutely needed. But remember, don't put yourself in a position where you're always overwhelmed either. You need to take time for you. So that way, again, less stress, less mess. That's how it works. Uh, well, I mean, look, it's understandable your sister's disappointed, but at the same time, your dad was trying to do the right thing, and trying to build a dresser, and he accidentally got injured. It's just an accident. It's just a part of being human. You know, I hope your sister can just relax and just you be like, okay, maybe another opportunity will come by where they can build a dresser together. So it just comes down to that. Those things are going to happen. So okay, so we went out to the store. So as while you're going out to the store, there. All right, all right, all right. Oh, well, Thanksgiving here. That's I'll answer that for you, Crevette. There we go. Okay, fair enough. Wait. They made a big deal about you being in the store shopping. Um, wow. Why did customers make a big deal about you wearing a face mask? I didn't think that was. You're realizing that because I'm Asian, I'll get a look. Yeah, you know what? Those people don't matter. The cashier asked you to step out. Wow, that's pretty rude. That's pretty rude. You don't need to deal with those kind of people. I guess those people won't get your business either, I suppose. But to be perfectly honest, that's terrible. You shouldn't have to encounter something like that. You should be able to conduct your business the way you want to. Cashier doesn't have a right to actually uh, talk down to you like that. Stand your ground and you just purchase what you want to purchase while still staying safe. If somebody has a problem with that, they should get over it. You didn't cause COVID. Okay? It happened. Chase, my friend, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well today there, Chase. Yeah, pretty good, my friend. Pretty good. Productive already. Can't go wrong. Sitting, chilling, having a great time. Let me be perfectly honest with you, Anna. And I'm gonna be as blunt as I possibly can. Those people who are judging you, see, those people who are judging you, fuck them. That's basically what I'll say. Right, worth your time. If they're gonna judge you based on you being who you are without making any actions that are malicious or and terrible in nature, then their judgment's not worth it at the end of the day. You know, I would say this. If you have a, and this is just coming from your point of view, is that I guess the best question. Let me ask this question here because you're Mennonite. How you know how important is Jesus in your life? Do you put him as the central focus in your life? Because you are part of a Mennonite family. I'm reading a little bit about Mennonite. You know, it's like, do you feel that Jesus is the central part of your life? Do you feel that he's the ultimate judge at the end of the day? That his ways are the ultimate ways of doing things? Thanks, Crevette. Wonderful. You try and put him first. Okay, so here's the perspective that I'm going to think from. Now, I'm no Mennonite. I don't really have a religion of which to speak of, but I'm going to speak from your perspective. You try and put Jesus first. You try and put his teachings first. You try to employ that in action. You try to you try to see that through when you're out and about, in society. All of which are perfectly fine and perfectly wonderful. If you feel that Jesus is central to your life and Jesus is the ultimate judge, then he's the only judge that you need to really worry about. That's the only that's the only Jesus is the only thing in your life that should be judging you. Everybody else's judgment is nonsensical because they pale in comparison to Jesus. Okay? From that perspective. And that's the way I'm going to view it. Okay? That's the way I'm going to view it. Well, for me, Crevette, I'm a little different. So that's the thing. The only judge that you really have to worry about is if you're doing the right things there, Anna, and it doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter what you look like. None of that stuff matters. What matters is what actions that you take. And if somebody's judging you for things that are so superficial, well, they're not a good judge at all, aren't they? They're not worth your time. And you need to hold your head up high and be like, hey, just because I don't fit a certain type of person or I don't happen to follow a stereotype means that you can judge me based off of that. Basically, at the end of the day, that's why I say fuck them, because I just ignore them. They're not worth my time and they're not worth my judgment. I've gotten a lot of dirty looks myself, but at the end of the day, I don't care because I know who I am. And to be comfortable with that means that whoever wants to judge me and tells me that I'm this, that, and the other thing, they have no idea what they're talking about to begin with. They have no idea. None. And I would say, if Jesus is central to your life, I'd be like, hey, you know, um, let Jesus be your guide and let Jesus be the judge and no one else. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I agree. That's an experience that you don't want to have happen again. I don't disagree with that. But I guess at the same time is that there's two paths that you can go down here, Anna. So I mean, let's talk about it from a practical perspective. There's two paths that you can certainly go down here. All right. Those two paths are those two paths are either A, you can be afraid of what those people are going to say to you and let them control you, or B, stand in the face of those people who decide to try and judge you. You know, look, those people are going to be them. Okay, let them be them. That's fine. Let them be them. They can do whatever they want. Doesn't mean that you have to associate yourself with them, but it doesn't mean you have to take their crap either. You have to, you stand up for yourself. You have to stand up for yourself and you basically continue to put out actions that show you're a good person. That's it. I'll be honest with you, Anna. I mean, I left my religion a long time ago, and I'm not saying you should, of course not. What I'm saying is that that was a very controversial thing to do in my family. You know? And obviously I got a lot of flack for it. I got a lot of hate for it because you just don't up and leave Islam, for example. But the thing is that I was like, I'm just going to be myself, and I'm not about to lie to myself. I know who I am, and I'm very comfortable about who I am. And it's not like I'm going around out here and doing bad things with my actions, and justifying them, saying, "Oh, just because I'm not a religion now, I can do whatever I want." No, I, I still have a moral code that I follow, a very strict one, I might add. And at the end of the day, I'm not harming anybody, and I'm going to stick to those principles. I'm going to stick to my guns, and it's like no matter how much you try and pull me back or try and judge me, I don't let that affect me. Yeah, I was, I was born and raised in a Muslim family. Um, you know, uh, I did the prayers, I read the Quran, all that stuff, and I I grew up with a not super strictly religious family, mind you. My mom is very religious. I would honestly speaking, Crevette, I would look that up. I would look it up on Google because there's a lot of different sects of Christianity and stuff. So some are different than others. So yeah. So I mean, I was born and raised Muslim and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you have the choice about what you want to believe in and what you don't want to believe in. You have the you have the free will. You have the choice. And far from it, far from it for me to tell you what you should or should not believe in. All right. On this stream, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what religion you need to follow. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is the best thing to do or this is the greatest thing to do. Like, no, none of that is true. Okay, that's all rubbish. All right. Um, I want you to decide for yourself and feel comfortable with why you should feel good with the religion that you follow. Okay. So if you say, "Hey, you say I'm gonna turn this down a bit," but if you sit there and tell me, you'd be like, "Hey, I'm Mennonite and I'm very comfortable with that," I'll be like, "That's wonderful. I'm very happy about that. I think you should continue doing that because that gives you a structure in your life. I think that's fine. My structure in my life is done. Yeah, my structure in my life, Anna, is just strictly, you know, I wanted to at least not be stuck in one perspective in one box. I wanted to be explore a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, and you know, I feel I'm a little bit more free thinking than maybe my counterparts in that regard. So, but as I said before, I never if I ever talk to people about religion, I'm like, you guys can I'm never going to force it down your throat. I'll be like, you guys can ask me what I believe in, and that's cool. You can totally ask me 100% what I believe in, right? And I'll tell you. But I'm not going to tell you that this is what you have to do. I'm not going to force it down your throat. I'll never impose it upon you because it's not my right and it'll never be my right. So, spirituality is something that everybody has to decide for themselves. Surprisingly, that happened when I was in Japan, of all places, is when I started to first understand that. Oh wow, your mother's father was a Mennonite pastor in France. That's wonderful. Oh, is that so? There you go. Oh, okay, that is. Hello, supporter 999. How are we doing, my friend? Trump supporter 999. Culture is important for me and learning from others. I think that's true. Where do I teach? I teach in the Chicagoland area, my friend. How about you? Where are you from? I know there's a lot of supporters all over the country. So, Canaryville. Canaryville. I've never heard of Canaryville. But where's Canaryville? What state is Canaryville in? Oh. Oh, really? Well, I'm not from downtown, my dude. I can be honest with you. I'm in the suburbs, as you can probably tell. If you're in Chicago, if you're in Chicago, then you will note that I always say I'm from Chicago. Everybody here says they're from Chicago, but yeah, the people who are different, I'm from the suburbs. If we're going to be a little bit more precise now, so I can respect that. Well, that's no fun. I hope you're safe. Have you thought of moving out at some point? At least to a nicer suburb or something like that? Well, that's not nice. That sounds terrible. I hope your friends are okay. Oh, well, it's kind of crazy there. I don't think shooting others is very nice. If you have to defend yourself, maybe that's one thing, but, well. Hmm. Should you be admitting something like that? That wouldn't be very good. Hey, AJ, how are you? Are you doing well, my friend? I'm doing very good, very good. Talking to a few people here. I got Anna and I got Crevette, who's from France. He's from Brittany, so so now I got England, I got France, I got a neighborhood in Chicago. I got I love the diversity. It's great. A lot of people from a lot of different places. Oh, that's really nice. Went to France, outskirts of Paris. I've never been to France, so I've only been to I made a stopover in Europe once in my life, so but honestly speaking, that's a long story. AJ, what are you up to today, my friend? That's a very nice dream to have. Was he able to do that? Was he able to do that there? I hope he was. McDonald's? Why, bro? Why, bruv? Why would you get McDonald's? Bruv, McDonald's, really? Ah, man. Shoot. McDonald's, bruv. Ugh. Yuck. Considering I worked at McDonald's when I was 15 years old and happened to watch the training videos and know how everything is made, regardless of what country that you're in, yeah, I don't go back to McDonald's for that reason. You could do better than Mickey D's, man. Oh. I understand, Shays. I understand that there's no Taco Bell, which is sacrilege, by the way. You should have a Taco Bell over there at some point in the future. I understand. Okay, even Japan has a Taco Bell. One Taco Bell, mind you, in the whole country. Right close to where I used to work. When I last visited Japan, I found out it was there. But yes, get a Taco Bell, that's fine. But even so, you got Burger King over there. Okay, and Burger King ain't great. Okay, mind you, Burger King ain't great. So, but it does have better fries than Mickey D's. So that part is true. You seem like one. Well, what are some good other fast food places in England then? KFC. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's interesting actually about Kentucky Fried Chicken. Kentucky Fried Chicken's okay. Kentucky Fried Chicken over here is pretty um, um, yeah, it's not good. Kentucky Fried Chicken out here is awful. We have extra crispy chicken over here, but the problem is that I mean, I they had KFC out in Japan. They just have the regular skin, no extra crispy in Japan. Admittedly though, they do a pretty good job. I could show you here. Let me show you guys what other fast food places that we have around here. There's a lot of different ones around where I live. So I'll show you what they are. So let's show you at least a few of them, right? Wow, 13 ice cream orders. Holy cow. So of course we have our regular Taco Bell here. Get some images of Taco Bell. Taco Bell, man. Bam. Can't go wrong with Taco Bell. All right, we also have a place called Culver's. Okay, Culver's has freshly made food. All right, so that's there's a lot of Culver's locations around here. Um, so you can get like frozen custard, or you get a lot of cheese curds and stuff like that. That's pretty popular here. So you can see the burgers are freshly made. Um, we have Popeyes. Popeyes is a chicken like Kentucky Fried Chicken, but has slightly better chicken in my opinion. All right, slightly better chicken in my opinion is Popeyes over KFC. So Popeyes is Cajun style Southern chicken there. Oh wow. Yeah, we got Wendy's, of course. Everybody knows Wendy's. So Wendy's is pretty popular. Wendy's has the best chicken nuggets. AJ White Castle, buddy. Ah, White Castle. Ay 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 ay. Okay, let me go ahead and talk about White Castle here for just a second. Now, if you go get White Castle, there's only two reasons why you go to White Castle. Actually, three reasons. One, you have very little money, but you want a lot of food. All right. Number two, it's super late and nothing else is open. Or number three, you're getting high off of weed and you need something to eat. And White Castle is what it is. So we call these burgers sliders for a reason, guys. That's why we call them sliders. Because they slide right in, and then of course you know the rest. Let's see, what other things? Well, there's other In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger, pretty popular. This is more of a West Coast thing. We don't have any here in the Midwest, but In-N-Out Burger is very popular out in the West Coast. Of course, Chipotle. Chipotle is by far and away quite amazing. I love me my Chipotle and burrito bowls. Can never go wrong with that. 10 times out of 10 would do again. Um, Now I gotta show you guys something here special. All right. I don't know if you guys were there on the stream where I got rated like the 300 people, but I showed off a pizza. That pizza was from here. It was from Lou Malnati's. This is a Chicago deep dish pizza, as you can see here on the screen. Now, from where I live, there's a Lou's right down the street, so I can order Lou Malnati's at any time. Subway? Oh, come on, man. Subway is nothing. Subway is garbage. Don't even bother. Subway is complete trash. There are so many Subways here in the US that there's too many to count. Like, literally, there's like a Subway literally on every corner. It's ridiculous. Like, Subway is terrible. I've had Subway plenty of times, but man, I haven't been to Subway in forever. Because it's just not good. Man, if you think that's the best, I'm so sorry. You're missing out, Chase. You are missing out. Because Subway is unadulterated, terrible food. Look, would you rather have Subway? Okay. Would you rather have Subway or would you rather have a Chicago deep dish pizza that you see here on this screen? I mean, if you choose Subway over the deep dish pizza, bruh, what are you doing with your life? I could spend 30 bucks on a large pizza that could feed me for like 2, 3 days. Or I get a Subway sandwich, which doesn't feed me at all. You don't like pizza? How awful. Oh, man. Okay, let's see. What's a good Subway comparison though? Because I mean, to be fair, there are other places out there that can offer better than Subway in terms of sub sandwiches. So, let's see here. What would be a good sub place? Well, there's a lot of different places around here for subs. Hmm. Subway is the biggest one and the most often used, but there's Quiznos. Oh yeah, there's Quiznos. I don't know if his Quiznos still around, but there's Quiznos. They make pretty good subs. They look more appetizing than that of you know, Subway. We also have Potbellies. Potbellies is pretty popular for sub sandwiches. That again looks significantly better since looks significantly better than Subway. You're gonna sit here and tell me these pictures look worse than Subway, bruv. What are you doing? Oh yeah, right. We also have Five Guys. Five Guys is pretty expensive, but they make really outstanding food. So if you go Five Guys, then you're not going to go there too often because the prices are quite high. But the food is really good, actually, in all honesty. I will say that. Now, I forgot to add one more here. I think you guys will like this one. Let me show you this one, guys. All right? Let me try. So this one here is local to my area. There's a lot of them. But it's called Portillo's. Portillo's is very famous for Italian beef. Italian beef and Italian beef sandwiches and hot dogs. You can even dip it in the au jus sauce. Well, if we're talking France and the World Cup, I think France is always a favorite to win the World Cup every year, every campaign. France has a wonderful team. Hmm. Family faces COVID catch 22. Huh. Interesting. Let's see what the other side has to say. Gotta read articles. Eh. To be fair, that's who I voted for. It really didn't matter who I voted for, though, in all honesty. Um, Honestly, I probably would have voted for anyone, but my vote doesn't really matter much where I live. In Illinois, it's pretty much a Democratic state. So even if I voted for Trump, it wouldn't have mattered. Illinois would have swung to Biden anyway. So I wasn't really interested or like saying, "Wow, this candidate's better," or both candidates are pretty bad. So I was like, "Yeah, eeny, meeny, miny, mo." Like a change of times for sport? Yeah, I think France winning the World Cup again would be great. I mean, look, France has a better showing in the World Cup than the U.S. team. U.S. team never shows up. We support I guess the best way to put it is we support the U.S., but we know they are not good. I would agree with that, Anna. Totally agree with that. Oh dear. Wonderful. All right. Probably should go and eat some lunch now. Well, maybe just get a snack. Okay. All right. So I'm probably gonna stop the stream here for now. I'm gonna come back in a little bit. Um. Anna. Anna Crevette. Um. Both of you. Both of you have a very wonderful time. I'm gonna be back here at 4 o'clock. All right. I'm gonna go get something to eat. Just a little bit to hold me over for a few more hours. All right. But I will see you guys later. I love you all. All of you are wonderful, wonderful people. Please feel free to come back and come together here in the stream. I really appreciate you guys. Okay. You guys are welcome at any time. It's fun to see that there are people who are connecting through my stream. I think that's wonderful. And it's not just me. It's like you and Crevette. Thank you, Crevette. That's very nice of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, guys. We'll see you in a little bit. If you'd like to come back, please feel free to do so. All right, guys. We'll see ya. All right. See you in a bit.